Being a member of the human race entails a journey that is uniquely our own. How we find ourselves, answers to profound questions, and God requires a level of introspection and soul searching. I'd like to welcome Reverend Rebecca Hinds, minister with the Unitarian Church in Charleston, and she's here also ahead during Pride Month, so ahead of many events that are taking place. Reverend, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Why don't we just start with defining what the Unitarian Church is?
So the Unitarian Universalist Church came out of the Protestant Reformation, and over time our umbrella has gotten wider and wider. So we're a very inclusive association of congregations, and you'll find a lot of diversity within our church. The Unitarian Church in Charleston was founded in the 1700s. It's the second oldest church in Charleston. So we've been around for a long time here and on the peninsula.
And when we're talking about the level of diversity, what are we talking about exactly?
Theological diversity. You know, you don't have to believe the same thing as the person sitting next to you in the pew to be a member of our church. We accept different beliefs because we promise to walk the journey of faith with one another despite our differences.
And among those differences would be members of the LGBTQ community. I mean, do you think that the founding fathers here in Charleston in the 1700s dreamed that the Unitarian Church would be home to such a diverse group of people?
I don't know that they would have dreamed it was possible, because it would have been so far out of their reality, but I think they would be proud that we are so welcoming and inclusive of everyone.
Are there any other churches out there that have the same philosophies?
Absolutely. There are Circular Church and the United Church of Christ, and a lot of Reformed Jewish congregations are the same. Those are the ones that come to my mind. Some of the Episcopal churches. There are lots of, in the Metropolitan Community Church, there are lots of Unity. There's a lot of places that you can find welcoming and acceptance as an LGBTQ person in a faith community. That being said, there's a lot of places where that's not true.
Right, and the world is a very large place, so there is, you know, a home for everybody where they can worship, but being that the Unitarian does accept a wide variety of beliefs and lifestyles and things like that, what does that mean for the LGBTQ community in terms of finding God, finding faith? Because I think a lot of times I have heard just from friends and from other people who've talked about their LGBT path journey, that they've lost faith, they've lost God, but many of them stick to their faith. So, what are some of the teachings, and how does one navigate that part of their life?
Well, I'm one of the lucky ones. I grew up Unitarian Universalist, and the tradition that I serve today, and I grew in Unitarian Universalist, like I said, welcome, affirm, and celebrate LGBTQ individuals and families. So I grew up knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was beloved and I belonged, regardless of my gender or my sexuality, and that was true for everyone. So I feel lucky that that was my experience, and like you said, it's not the experience that every LGBTQ person has, and so I've noticed that when people find us at the Unitarian Church, there's a tremendous amount of healing that happens, spiritual healing, to know that you can belong to a faith community that accepts you fully, and you don't have to change who you are to be a part of our community. And so I've noticed that, and relief that I have found where I belong, and I'm so glad and grateful to have found this place. So I've noticed that, and I think it can be profoundly healing for folks.
Just knowing that there's a higher power, there's a wisdom above our own, that people can find comfort in.
Yeah, and the Unitarian Universalist message, in a nutshell, I might say, is that there's nothing that can separate a person from the love of God. And so to have a community like ours say, you are beloved, and there is nothing about you that can separate you from the love of God, is a powerful message.
When do you hold services?
We hold services at 11 a.m. on Sundays.
Mm-hmm. All right. And have you started thinking about what your sermon is going to be this coming Sunday, just in the midst of
for the Pride service?
Month? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were delighted to have been asked to facilitate the Pride service, and that one will be at 10 a.m. on June 5th at Common House Ale Works in Park Circle. So yes, I have thought a lot about it, and we have a band, Porto Seguro, a local band will be there, and we'll have testimonies from members of the LGBTQ community, and readings, poetry, and I'm planning on preaching a message of belonging and hope and belovedness, and in particular thinking through welcoming and affirming and celebrating transgender individuals.
I think we're going to leave it at that. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
We're back after this.